Master Duncan Park, that you have to, the mind is the most important thing when you're training, when you want to be a champion. You have to go beyond the physical. You have to think like a champion. If you're tired, you have to continue. When the weather is nice, I said everybody can train when it's nice weather, but you have to come up here when it's cold, when it's extremely hot. Back in those days, in the summer, we had no air conditioning, and in the winter, it was cold. So he really developed determination and spirit and discipline with the type of teaching that he taught.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time, I would like to say welcome, and remember to check my other video here. I'm going to put it here, just click it. Today, we have the privilege to speak to the CEO and founder of Taekwondo Hall of Fame. Guess, do you know who he is or what is his name? Stay tuned. I'm going to invite him to our channel, so make sure you stay on until the end of the video. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Ta-da! Hello, Grandmaster Gerard Robbins. Welcome to my channel. How are you today?
Fine, Master Sarah, fine.
Oh, thank you so much for attending this interview, and thank you so much for sharing your expertise and knowledge and experience in Taekwondo as well as in life. So first of all, Grandmaster Robbins, how did you start Taekwondo and why?
Well, my Taekwondo experience was in 1971, but prior to that, my brother William, he'd come back from Vietnam, and he had indicated to me, you should study. He called it at the time Taekwondo because he studied Taekwondo in Vietnam in the late '60s. And shortly after that, I had been practicing 2 other forms of martial arts: Japanese karate, Chito-ryu, and also Shukokai. I didn't know about Taekwondo at that time, and I had been competing in tournaments in New York and Japanese style tournaments. And in 1971, I went to a tournament in New York, the Richard Chung's championship, and I saw this guy flying in the air, jumping over 6 people, kicking, boards, break. It was spectacular. And I said, this is what I have to do. This is Taekwondo. I have to join Taekwondo. So I went to his school and I asked him if he would teach me. I came from relatively poor background, and I said, how much is it to study? And when he gave me the price, I said, I don't know if I can afford it. He said, don't worry about it. Just come and train with me. So that instructor's name was Duncan Park, and I would find out that he was 6 times Korean national champion, and he'd retired after 200 matches. He's well known in Korea. So that's how I started Taekwondo.
Wow, so that was in 1960.
1970, 1971.
Wow, good. At that time, I was still a toddler. Yeah, toddler. Well, it's good to know that. Wow. So at that time, do you know what is Taekwondo? Or
I really didn't know what it was. To me, it was just karate. But at that time, they called it Korean karate because that was something most people were they could easily associate with it. Later on, as it became more popular, people called it Taekwondo. Taekwondo schools opened up all over the place. I guess it was maybe around 70, 71, 72, 73. There was an influx of Korean instructors, particularly in the East Coast. And as time went on, they began to call the schools Taekwondo schools.
Wow. So have anything changed since then? The Taekwondo back in 1960s, 1970 versus the Taekwondo now?
Well, if you're talking about the competition itself, that's changed dramatically. I remember when I was first competing in national team around 75, 76. They had what was called trembling shock. In order to score points, you had to hit with force.
Wow.
The techniques were much harder at that period of time. The training was much more brutal. In fact, my instructor, let me give you a little story. I'd be working out for maybe about 2.5 hours in the school, and at that time was mainly adults. Today it's usually a lot of kids, but at that time was mainly adults. And I'd be exhausted after a class of kicking, punching, punching, punching. And I'm walking out the door, and he would say to me, "Where are you going?" "What do you mean? Where are you going?" "I'm exhausted." He said, "Come over, come over. We haven't you now. You're going to start your training." And he would take out a chair, and he'd have me kick over the chair for like a half an hour. I mean, it was incredible. Today, I don't think the people practicing today would train that way. But the training was very, very hard. And one thing he used to always say is very important, your spirit. That's one of the most important things I learned from Master Duncan Park. That you have to, the mind is the most important thing when you're training. If you want to be a champion, you have to go beyond the physical. You have to think like a champion. If you're tired, you have to continue. When the weather is nice, he said everybody can train when it's nice weather, but you have to come up here when it's cold, when it's extremely hot. And back in those days, in the summer, we had no air conditioning. In the winter, it was cold. So he really developed determination and spirit and discipline with the type of teaching that he taught.
Wow, it sounds like no pain, no gain, right?
No pain, no gain.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly. When I first started, I was told that too. It's like no pain, no gain. You have to endure pain. That's good for you. Pain is good for you.
oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, he always thought you can always go further, further than what you think you can go, and that's the type of philosophy that he taught me in life as well. Not just kicking and punching, but his teaching was for life. No matter what you do, you have do, to do your very best, and don't let anything stop you, and just continue. You have to have a very strong mind, very important your spirit, and I carry that. Today in everything that I do, I try to anyway.
Yeah, that's actually very good. Uh, I would say very good training experience and also discipline. When I when I s- when I first started, I was asked to lift up my leg on the stair for a long time while doing my studying, my reading. That's how I save my time. So I do stretching, lift my leg
Mm,
up on the stair, and then reading at the same time.
wow.
Yeah,
Hmm.
killing two
Wow.
birds with one stone.
Well, a lot of the training was done in the school, but at the same time, when I would come home, I'd hang a cardboard up on the ceiling with a string, and I would kick that cardboard. I would jump, kick the cardboard. I would do repetitions of kicking of the cardboard. There was a very close friend of mine. We went to high school together. His name is Tony Alvarez. At the time, he was in the service, and whenever he would come back from leave, we would train in the park. He had tremendous sidekick, tremendous kicks. He studied with another instructor in New Jersey called the Kichong Kim, and I couldn't wait for those weekends to come where we would work together. So the workout was good in the school, but I also had to work out at home, and I'd also worked out in the weekends with Tony Alvarez.
Wow. So I'm just wonder. Did you study any other martial other than Taekwondo? I know you mentioned about other type of martial art, but how many type of martial have you learned besides Taekwondo?
Well, there were two other forms of karate that I learned, and it was Chito-ryu was one, and the other one was Shukokai. And Shukokai had a lot of hip motion with the kicking and the punching, but there weren't any spinning kicks or anything like that. And that's why when I saw Grandmaster Park uh, do this demonstration, I was amazed. I said, "This is what I've got to do." And then I would go to the Korean style tournaments, and I would see players such as Michael Warren, Albert Cheeks, Joseph Hayes.
Mhm.
These were my contemporaries as well. Unbelievable kicking combinations, just very beautiful to watch. That time we didn't have chest protectors. We just fought point system is what they called here, and I think that's what they did in most countries other than Korea. Korea back in those days was still using the chest protector, but to watch these guys fight, and it was an amazing experience. And several occasions, Michael Warren, Albert Cheeks, and Joseph Hayes, who were in the Black Belt magazine's top 10 in the United States, we were on the same team, and we would travel to Canada, and we had some fantastic matches with Chung Lee's students in Canada, Daniel Richer, Ray Nickel, and John Picard, and the matches were beautiful. It was USA versus Canada, and at the end of all of the matches, the team matches, we would just have a party. We'd drink, we'd eat, we'd have fun. But that was one of the most important things that I saw in terms of my development in Taekwondo. Learning about different people when I went to Korea, when I went to Mexico, when I went to Canada, I got to see how different people were, how the cultures were different. But basically, I realized that we're all basically the same. We're all and that's one of the most beautiful things about Taekwondo is it does bring people together.
Yeah, I first started, I was influenced by my uncle, but most importantly by Bruce Lee. You know, I watched I watched this movie, and then I saw Master Peter Chung, like his students were acting like Bruce Lee. That's what I thought at that time. I thought it's beautiful, right? I started because of his students. They are about my age. I think the team environment, the team spirit is more important than individual motivation at that time for me. And then I remember when I did my undergraduate thesis, my Bachelor of Education thesis, I did my thesis in Taekwondo. I look at the factors of motivation in Taekwondo. You know, the first motivation in Taekwondo, you know, guess what it is? It is team spirit.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the team spirit that unite people together. And self-defense is important, but actually the team spirit that bring people together. That's the first, the number one factor. Yeah.
You mentioned Peter Chung. I think as our technical advisor back in the day, you recommended him as as advisor into the Hall of Fame. He was a referee, very famous referee in Malaysia at one time, an official. So he was, I believe we inducted him, I think in 2009, I believe it was. Yeah, Peter Chung. Wow.
Yeah, in I think in New York City.
That's right. That's
in
right.
New York City. Thank you so much. And yeah, he taught me many things. I started as Taekwondo, traditional Taekwondo, and he taught me all the four tenets of Taekwondo, all the philosophy on the wall, just to remind me. For example, right? For example, if you can do it, I can do it too, even better. That kind of motivation quote. He always liked to post a motivation quote on the wall so that I remember. That's how we learn. Yeah, I mean, this technique is actually still applicable until today.
Yeah, again, a lot of it is not actually physical. A lot of it is your thinking. A lot of it is the way you approach the martial art. Sure, that's the most important part.
Yeah, that's right. It's actually, it's not about just kicking and punching. It's a lot about philosophy and the mental skill, the self-discipline, all about habit. And that's right.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, have you ever competed like in sparring?
Whoa, my goodness! I was. I don't like to brag about myself. However, I was on the first national Taekwondo team in 1975. I competed in this second World Championships. I competed I was the gold medalist in the Pan Am Games in 1970 in Mexico City. I won the Los Angeles Open in 1978. But there's one tournament that stood out above all of the tournaments. I mean, I've competed in Korea, I've competed here and there, but the All-American at Madison Square Garden in New York holds a special place in my heart. It's where most of the famous champions in the United States competed and won, like Chuck Norris, Mitchell Babrow, George Thanos, Michael Warren, Albert Cheeks. We had several generations of great tournament fighters. The next generation would have been Herbert Perez and Mark Williams, which were extraordinary competitors. But that event, I remember you would have wow, it would have 1,000 competitors in just the heavyweight division alone. It was like 300 competitors, and you had to go through a whole day of competing just to get to the finals. And then you would compete with the best of the best in the lightweight and the middleweight division. Yeah, that tournament was run by Henry Cho, who was one of the first instructors in the United States. But it was just a wonderful time, and you would meet people from all over the world in that tournament, from Canada, from Mexico, everywhere. Just beautiful.
Wow. So yeah, tell me more about the your competitive career in Taekwondo. How many medals have you won? A lot. I've seen your picture with Chuck Norris.
Yeah, yeah. We had a reunion of All American champions in 2003, and I spoke to Chuck Norris and I invited him, but there was some technical issues; he couldn't come. But we had all of the champions there: Michael Warren, Albert Cheeks, Joseph. It was just an incredible amount of the real grand champions from that event. It was really a beautiful experience. And again, I look back now, and it's like. At that time, we were opponents, but not really enemies, And we were at the end of the fights, we would hug, we'd shake hands, and just compete in the next one. But there was never any animosity. But because the level of technique was so high at that time, it brought everybody up. These guys were just incredible competitors, and we helped each other in terms of we learned from each other when we were sparring. But one of the most important things, as I've said, is the traveling. As I was a youth, we didn't have much opportunity to travel. My sisters and brothers didn't. So Taekwondo gave me the opportunity to travel to World Championships, to travel to Mexico, to travel to Canada, to travel to Korea. And I got to see the world through Taekwondo. And I got to see, as I said before, that people are different, but people are basically the same. And it's really done a lot for my life, Taekwondo. And that's probably one of the reasons why I wanted to create the Taekwondo Hall of Fame. One of the reasons is because as time went on, some of these champions, people didn't know who they were. People forgot who they were. And we have a new crop of champions, a new crop of competitors. But everybody forgot Mike Warren. Everybody forgot Albert Cheeks. It was a way of preserving the history of my own history, and also the history of the champions in every other country, and the officials and pioneers in every other country around the globe. And when we give our ceremonies, we've given our ceremonies every 2 years since 2007, we're able to bring the best of the best to these ceremonies in different countries. And no one asks what degree you are or what organization you are. We're all one basic family. But the Taekwondo Hall of Fame is designed basically to preserve the tradition of Taekwondo, to preserve what Taekwondo is, what Taekwondo was back in the day, so that people do not forget and people remember this is what it's really about. And these are the people who really founded the martial art, who really developed it, and it's just been a wonderful experience.
Wow, wow. So if you can recall, what was the best moment during competition or during your competitive career in Taekwondo?
Well, as I said, it was the All American Open at Madison Square Garden, where I competed against people like John Kritzos from Washington, D.C., Albert Cheeks, Michael Warren, the best of the best, because the best of the best competed in that tournament. And when I won the event in 1978, I became a part of the history of the All American.
Wow.
And for that reason, I mean, I joined Chuck Norris and Mitchell Bobrow and people like that in terms of the history of the tournament. They also had great forms champions, not only fighting. Derek Williams, James Roberts. It was just a beautiful tournament that brought the best of the best to the tournament and the best out of the best in competition. Most of the champions ended up in the Black Belt Hall of Fame, and most of the grand champions of later years actually were inducted into the official Taekwondo Hall of Fame years later.
Oh, that's amazing, amazing. It's just contribution to Taekwondo Hall of Fame. So there's a philosophy or maybe a proverb saying that good student or top student or best students come from best instructors. So of best master, because it's like parenting, right? So I wonder who are the mastermind, who are your grandmasters or your teachers that or your instructors that taught you like life lesson in Taekwondo.
Well, like you could say, Grandmaster Duncan Park, who was the Korea national champion 6 times. He was the Olympic coach in 1992. He won a gold medal there. He was also the head coach of the 1979 U.S. World Taekwondo team. He's my biggest influence in Taekwondo. He's an amazing person physically, as well as the things that he taught me, mentally about Taekwondo. He used to always say, "Very important your spirit. Very important your spirit." I have a little. We had a little joke also while we were teaching, while I was learning in the school. His English, when he first came, he didn't speak English that well, and so we'd all be on the floor, and he had a strong Korean accent, and he would say kick, 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 and we're like tired, we're like exhausted, right? And so we're like huffing and puffing, said, "Shut your mouse," and we're looking for a mouse. What mouse? And that we would just all be laughing to ourselves. But he was he still is an incredible instructor. In fact, he still teaches in Jersey City, New Jersey. I talk to him all the time now, maybe once, twice a month or so, and we go out every now and then. But his mind is extremely strong, and that's what he taught. You have to have a strong spirit. Another example. In Madison Square Garden, they'd have over 1,000 competitors. And I would say to him, "Sir, we have a lot of competitors here today." He said, "So what?" He said, just treat it like it's your school. After the first round, and I thought about it, after the first round, it doesn't matter how many competitors there are. After the first round, there's only half, and then half again. So it all depends on the way you look at things, how difficult something's going to be. And it carries again into life. How things appear to you. If you think something's difficult, it's going to be difficult. Your frame of mind is the most important thing. And that.
Yeah, everything.
Is the most important. Yeah. So it always goes back to your way of thinking.
Yeah, the thinking is very important. I remember I learned sports psychology course in my undergraduate. That was my first exposure to sports psychology. And we were asked to do an experiment, right? You tie a string with a small ring, and then you use your mental to ask the ring to circle, to make a certain move. And I say, move to the right. You don't move it with your hand. You just use your mental to ask the hand, the fine motor, we call it gross motor to fine motor skill, to affect the trait, a string or trait that will affect the movement of the ring. So I said to the right, and then I literally saw that it's actually moved to the right, and then I say circle like clockwise, right? And it's actually clockwise. And then I say anti-clockwise, and actually anti-clockwise. That was my aha moment. Epiphany or aha moment was like, wow, I can control my, my mind can control my body. And that was my really aha moment. And that really pushed me to achieve like excellence or achieve more in Taekwondo.
It's funny that you say that because going back to the training again, we would do repetition after repetition after repetition of attack, counterattack with gloves. And he used to say it's going to be second nature to you. And I said, second nature? Okay. So when I competed in the ring, my body would just react, would just move. You develop a, how can I put it? You don't have to think about what you're going to do. Your body will automatically react to it if you do it repetitiously enough. But some incredible experiences that I've had with this grandmaster. I have so much respect for him, and And whenever we've gone to Korea, I see people bowing to him. I said, well, this, you know, I understand why. I understand why now. He's a great man.
Yeah, yeah. So we both learn a lot, especially yourself, Grandmaster Robbins. I wonder, like, when you first started Taekwondo, how has that affected or impacted your life as a youth? Because you started like when you were a teenager.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. Tell me more about that. Yeah, teenager and Taekwondo.
okay. Well, I was in, as I said before, I was doing other martial arts before Taekwondo, shortly before Taekwondo. And I grew up in a pretty rough area. I came from a relatively big family, and we weren't rich. We didn't have. In fact, I could say we were poor actually. And it gave me the opportunity to travel. It gave me opportunity. It gave me a focus. I'd say if not for Taekwondo, I could have been in the same situation as a lot of other guys that went the wrong way. But it gave me a focus. I wanted to be a champion. I wanted to be a winner, and that gave me a direction. My mother was a force in my life, and she always go to school. You know, she was a good influence. But Master Park was like, you have to, uh, you have to. How can I put it? Don't give up. You have to stick with me. In fact, he said he wanted me to actually live with him, and I was thinking, if I go to live with Grandmaster Park, am I going to be eating fried chicken? No, I don't think so. We're eating Korean food. And at that time, I couldn't imagine, living with him. But like I said, as a youth, it gave me a sense of direction. It kept me out of trouble. Kept me on the right path. It's so easy to get influenced. You know, peer pressures. Your friends want you to do this. They want you to do that. And a lot of times, that's how you get yourself in trouble. Myself, for some reason, I was just so focused on martial arts and Taekwondo that my peers were the people that I competed with. My peers were the people I was, training with, and they were all positive. So there was only one thing I could only have a positive outcome.
Wow. Yeah, of course. Of course. For those who are watching now, if you are teenagers, remember Grandmaster's Robin advice. We really encourage you to learn Taekwondo, pick up something, like something that you really enjoy. And maybe you may want to consider Taekwondo.
Well, what you should do is, be a leader. It's easier to follow, but if you're a leader, let people follow you. And if someone tries to influence you, think about what you're doing. Think about the impact that it's going to have later. The other thing Master Park taught me was very important: your background. Your background's going to carry you. You get into a little bit of trouble, and as a professional, I was a detective back in life, and I would see kids getting themselves in trouble, and that little thing that got them in trouble carried them for the rest of their lives. So that was very important. Your background follows you.
Exactly. Like I remember when I was a teenager, my life was all about Taekwondo and studies. That's it. No, not even social life. Right? My social life were quite limited. I went to church and joined the fellowship, but when the youth fellowship clashes with the timetable clashes with Taekwondo, so Taekwondo always come first.
Understood.
Yeah. Appreciate Taekwondo, where Taekwondo gave me confidence. I remember when I was bullied in school. At that time, I was in my primary elementary school. I was bullied. I don't know how it was just automatically. I just raised my leg and then did a side kick to the bully. It was a reflection. It was a reflection. I didn't really think about it.
Well, I think back in those days, everybody thinks people are Asian. They know karate. They don't know something anyway, right? So they're going to be a little afraid anyway. And when they see you do that kick, it's like, watch out, So the big thing was kung fu. Everybody was learning kung fu back in the early 70s, even before karate, and with the Bruce Lee movies and the kung fu movies that were in the theaters. But we all thought everybody that was Asian knew kung fu, So I can imagine when they saw that kick, that must have really scared of, no?
Yeah, it's once you train regularly, it's actually sort of embedded in your body. Sort of, I mean, the movement is like a reflection. So when people try to attack you, and you automatically like reflex, and try to protect yourself, and just your kick just automatically came out. That was for me. Yeah. So Grandmaster Robin, so for you, you have experienced like so many eras of Taekwondo, like decades of Taekwondo, right? You're involved in training and competition. Now you have your Taekwondo Hall of Fame. What do you think? What has competition changed over the years? Like from non-protector. I know when I first started, we were not asked to put on any gear, no headgear, no body protector, no forearm guard, no shin guard, no nothing. We just kick or fight without anything, right? It's actually quite painful, but actually train you to be tougher. But nowadays, everyone put on all the gear. So what do you think about the changes?
Well, I mean, when I first started competing, no one wore the chest protectors, and we would just basically slug it out. And you had to block. If you didn't block, you could get your head knocked off. So we trained a little harder at that time. It was not until around 1975 that the chest protectors were beginning to be used, and I think now most of the tournaments are using the chest protectors. The main difference, and well, there were two different periods. Even if you're talking about the Olympic style, back when you were competing and prior to when you were competing, the competition was extremely rough with the chest protector on. There were spinning kicks. They had what was called trembling shock. You had to actually feel the person's body move, shake, in order to get a point. But as time went on, it seemed like the rules were changed to allow almost any kind of kick if it touched the face to get 3 points, even if it was a light touch. Particularly with the electronic scoring protective equipment, if you touch the area of the vest, you could get a point. So people really didn't need to use trembling shock. They didn't really need to use hard techniques. So as a result, the sport began to look a little weaker. It began to change. I'd almost say that anyone that could keep their front leg up and just keep flopping their leg up can be a champion in most of the world and Olympic championships that are held today. But back in the day when you competed, it was much tougher. I understood the idea about the chest protector because some people might have thought that the judges might not have been fair. So if everybody can see the screen and everybody can see the points as they're being scored, it might make it more attractive to the audience and fair for the player. But once they began to allow techniques that were weak techniques to score and gain points, it just changed the look of the art.
Because of the new competition rules, people tend to score, kick to the face because that gives them more points, right?
Well, now all you'll see is people that if they develop a front leg. I've seen in several countries, they'll recruit taller players with longer front leg, and then everybody will just practice that front leg, flip with the front leg. So now it looks more like a fencing match than actually, a sparring match, and that's really hurt. That's really hurt the way the art looks. I'm hoping that the rules will change and they will allow more rear leg and real spinning kicks. But the problem with that is once you practice something, as you know, enough times it becomes second nature. So even while you're there and you know these different techniques, first of all, you can win with just the front leg, and number two, if you're tired, most of the things you've been practicing, that's what you're going to do anyway, just front leg, even though you know different techniques. So from the standpoint of second nature, it's very difficult to change.
Nowadays, many countries or many states or many province or many clubs, they actually try to identify talent. We call it talent identification, where they think that the taller athletes have more chance to win at the competition. So what do you think about that kind of idea?
Well, I mean, I understand the idea, and in the beginning, that was fine. In the beginning, you'd have taller athletes sparring with shorter athletes. So generally, the taller athletes with the longer legs would have more of an advantage. But what's happening is you're getting countries now that everybody's got taller athletes, particularly in the heavyweight division. So you still have, so it's like equal. It's still a fencing match. It hasn't changed any. I'd like to see it come back to a different scoring system where the back leg is more how can I put it? Is more
Superior, superior.
yeah, or spinning techniques, or a double kick is rewarded more if the second technique lands. I think that would bring the interest of the public back, because the way it looks now, there's a lot to be improved. And if Taekwondo wants to remain in the Olympics, I think there's going to have to be a change in the way it's taught and in the way the techniques are scored. But again, that's up to the powers that be, and it's up to them to make the changes.
So what are the changes you would like to see in the future, for the future?
Again, I like maybe a combination of the old way and the new way, where the elimination matches could be all out, not necessarily with the electronic scoring equipment, where the judges can score. They had like push buttons at the time, or sometimes they were using paper, where it could just be a free, what they call free sparring, continuous contact and points being given on aggression, multiple techniques, and then maybe in the finals, maybe those matches you can use the chest protectors. Maybe a combination of both might be one way to solve the problem.
Wow, that's really interesting. So how about the forms? What do you think about the forms? Let's compare the WTF first. For WTF, the forms changes from Page to Taegu.
Okay. All right. Well, beyond Page and Taegu, what I've noticed over the years, well, first of all, as you know, forms were created to develop technique and simulate actual cases that you can, actual techniques that you can use in a street situation, in a practical situation. So they would teach, like, how can I put it? How can I explain it? All right, but as time went on, in terms of tournaments, they begin to develop more fancy techniques, and now it seems as though the techniques are not really based upon the practical application in a street fight, but more for spectator enjoyment. They'll have flipping kicks, they'll have spinning kicks, they'll have jumping. It's kind of lost its purpose, but then again, that's what the sport has become for the most part now. It's getting away from the practical application in terms of techniques, and it's been mainly gymnastics. That's how I see it. I mean, forms are beautiful. The ITF forms, I believe that they've kept their tradition. And their forms that appear to be a little bit more complex. As you know, the forms were developed to develop your technique, develop balance, and there were practical applications with the forms that you could use in a street situation, self-defense situation. And so it was the same. So it is the same with the ITF forms. However, as time went on, the forms changed. They began to throw in all types of techniques just to please the audience. So they've lost their practical use, but they're beautiful to see. You could probably get a gymnast and teach a gymnast a few kicks and a few moves, and they can look just as spectacular, if not more. But you really have to do form, and also to develop good basics. That's the other purpose for forms: repetition of the form to develop good technique. And that's the other thing my instructor used to always teach. Basics are more important. Even the uniform itself, we used to call it a gi. We all had the crossover, but again, to differentiate itself from Japanese karate, the WTF developed the V-neck, which is beautiful. And
yeah, that's right. There's so many changes, especially the freestyle Poomsae, though I would call it the freestyle form. they basically they are more like acrobatic. They are more like gymnastic nowadays. If let's say if like if the club owners would like to compete and then win at a certain championship, they may want to look for a gymnast to learn taekwondo, because it's easier for them to transfer their skill. We call it transferable skill. They have more transferable skills from gymnast to taekwondo, so it's actually easier for them to pick it up and then go from there.
Well, the advantage that I do see with these free-forming Poomsae is it does attract people. It does look beautiful, and the idea basically is to get more people interested in the art itself, and that's make it more exciting. So it does have an advantage, but overall, its practical purpose, I'm a little doubtful of that, but. Still beautiful to watch anyway.
Yeah, it is very beautiful to watch, especially the Poomsae, the sidekick. Nowadays, wow, look at the sidekick. It's so beautiful. The sidekick is actually becoming better and better. They almost everyone, almost all the Poomsae competitor can do like one line, really straight line sidekick, and looks really beautiful to watch.
I've seen even kids. I've seen rows of kids, maybe 8, 9 kids. They're using a elastic band on their foot, and they're throwing that kick 90 straight up 90 degrees, and it's just beautiful to watch. To the point where Taekwondo, the sidekick is becoming the face of Taekwondo, because everybody's throwing sidekick. Everywhere you look at sidekick, but
yeah, it's a symbol. It's like
it's becoming a symbol.
Like
yeah.
Sidekick becomes a trademark for Taekwondo.
Sure, it has.
Everyone likes to throw a sidekick and say, "Wow, so beautiful." It's similar to like a backswing. In gymnastics, if you can do a flip, and people really admire that.
Well, but I can tell you, the guys I competed with, they could throw a beautiful sidekick, and they could hit you with the sidekick. It's a lot different than what you're doing now. It's Taekwondo in general has changed over the years, I guess, for the most part. There are some aspects that are good. I mean, they have so many different types of competitions now. They have what's called the Hamadan, where they have different breaking and power breaking and fancy jumping kicks. So it gives people, it attracts more people. It brings them into Taekwondo. So that's really the one advantage of these various different types of forms of Taekwondo competitions that they have now. It grows Taekwondo for the most part.
So for the Hamadan, I actually been attended one, the World Hamadan in Seoul, Korea, a few years ago. It looks really attractive. It really looks beautiful. I wonder what is the future in Taekwondo, like evolving from a really traditional way to the current status.
Well, a lot of it depends on who your instructor is. There are a lot of instructors now that are maintaining tradition, and they're teaching the art the way it was taught in the beginning. And then you have other instructors who are teaching the fancy techniques that are more focused on the sport aspect of it. A lot of schools actually are teaching just sport Taekwondo. It's not even really anything that can be used practically in a self-defense situation. They're becoming sports schools for the most part. But again, my instructor, he teaches the same way today that he taught 50 years ago. The basics, he teaches things that you can use practically. He teaches the competitive portion of it as well. It's really a good blend, but he's never left the tradition.
Yeah, so how do you look at it? Like, if you have a kid, I'm just trying to, like maybe educate the parents. If you have a kid, what kind of school do you like? What kind of school should the parents look into? Like traditional martial art Taekwondo or sports Taekwondo or both? And what are the core value that the parents should look into, like how to choose a good Taekwondo school?
Well, I think all schools, all styles, whether it's ITF or WTF, um, or all martial arts in general, are good things to get your children involved in. But what I recommend is if you're interested in getting your child into school, watch the instructor, learn about the instructor, um, see if he's putting discipline in his classes, or if he's letting kids just run rampant. You can, you can generally tell after watching one school if this is a school that you want your son or your daughter to attend. Um, and most good schools, you'll see that the instructor is strict with the kids and teaches discipline, and the kids follow. That's the most important thing, is to just visit the school, watch the instructor, see how he teaches, and see how the children react to him. The school that you choose in terms of what you want your child to learn or to do is very important. The schools that focus on tournaments and sparring, if your kid is really competitive, and if that's what that school offers, that's probably a good school. But again, watch the school, watch the class, watch how much attention the instructor pays to the kids, so the kids are not getting hurt. He's not overly aggressive with the children. He's not overly overbearing with the kids. There's got to be a proper balance.
Yeah, that's right. And some parents, they say, oh, my kids would like to go to Taekwondo, but they didn't check the affiliation of the school, and they ended up like spending a lot of time but did not get the chance to go to Olympics because the school is not affiliated with the Olympic sports World Taekwondo. So I think that's the issue nowadays with Taekwondo, right? Martial art, traditional martial art versus Taekwondo. And I'm just curious, Grandmaster Robin, which one would you choose? Martial arts, Taekwondo, traditional Taekwondo, or Olympic Taekwondo?
Well, okay.
I put you in the wrong.
No. Well, I was a competitor. I mean, if you have a kid that's competitive, you have a kid that likes to compete with others. I would suggest one that teaches the sport aspect of it. But there are some schools that teach both. My instructor taught both. He taught the martial art, and he also taught the sport. And that's really the best school to go to, is a school that can give you a combination of both.
How about character building? Nowadays, many parents send the kids to Taekwondo school because they want the kids to build character. Many schools promote this characteristic to the public or to the parents. So promising that if you bring your kids to learn Taekwondo in my school, your kids are gonna learn this, like confidence, like positive attitude and focusing skill and self-discipline. What do you think about that?
Well, that's why it's important to watch the instructor and watch how he interacts with the children, how they interact with each other, and what he allows to go on in the school. Because, some kids can become bullies, depending upon the way the instructor teaches. That's I mean, very, very important. Character building is one of the most important things that most good instructors will teach. Discipline, character building, confidence, determination. With a good school, your student will learn those things. But again, watch the class, watch the instructor, and then make your choice. And it shouldn't be based upon money. Some schools, they'll charge a lot of money. Some schools, they won't. It doesn't matter how much you can afford. The most important thing is to watch the student and watch the instructor, learn about the school, and as Master Chung said, see if there's any affiliation with any organization that might be detrimental to your student's growth, your child's growth. Exactly.
That's the purpose of learning Taekwondo. And for me, I learned so much from Taekwondo. Self-discipline, focus, even multitasking. And I share just now, I do stretching and study at the same time, because you only have 24 hours a day. So you must know how to manage your time really well. People say multitasking is not good, but some people say it's good. For me, in my opinion, multitasking is good if you know how to handle it. If you know how to handle it well. For example, if you can stretch and read book at the same time. Why not? Instead of sitting down here and read book and you do nothing with your body, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I like to do stretching, while reading a book. When I
Mm-hmm.
was a student athlete at that time. Nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
I still try to do that kind of thing, but it's not the same as before. For
Mm-hmm.
me, I try to listen to podcasts or try to listen to motivational talk or some kind of talk while I was running, right? So
Mm-hmm.
still cling to bed with one stone. Yeah. So that's my sharing.
Mm-hmm.
The other question
Very
I'd
interesting.
like to know, Grandmaster Robin, you started the Taekwondo Hall of Fame. I think it's a really brilliant idea to, especially to unite all types of Taekwondo. I've seen you have inducted Taekwondo experts from ITF, International Taekwondo Federation. For those who don't know what is ITF mean, ITF, I International, T Taekwondo, F mean Federation, ITF, and also the newly formed GTF, Global Taekwondo Federation, G Global, T Taekwondo, F Federation, and the Sports Taekwondo, which is World Taekwondo, and it used to be called WTF, World Taekwondo Federation.
Mm-hmm.
Now they changed the name to World Taekwondo.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is your vision in the future? Like, would there ever be a unification between WTF, ITF, and maybe GTF?
Well, that's a difficult question because of the politics that are involved, and yeah, it's very difficult. Maybe on the sport level, to some degree, there might be some sort of unification. I know that the WTF is now trying to work out a situation where the ITF competitors can compete in WTF events. I remember when I was competing, there were ITF people competing in the second World Championship. I mean, back then most of it was WTF. I mean, WTF actually only began in 1973. Before that, there were, there were Kwans. There were the Kwans.
Yeah.
So, but um, now, in terms of bringing the two styles together, in terms of a merger, there's a lot of talk about a merger between the two organizations. It's going to be kind of tough because number one, you have at least four different types of different ITF organizations, and they're not organized. And then you have the WTF. So which ones are going to organize? Which ones are going to get together? It's very tough. That's going to be the biggest problem in terms of getting the organizations to merge. If you're talking about ITF in general and WTF, right now WTF controls the Olympic sport. So in order to compete in the Olympics, you have to be a member of the WTF. You have to have actually a global license to compete in regional, national competitions to get a chance to make to become a national team member to compete in Olympics. So it's tough. It's really tough. Um, yeah, that's a tough question. It's a tough. That's going to be a tough situation. Hopefully, hopefully they'll work it out because basically we're all one family anyway. You're talking about the Hall of Fame before, and that's one of the nice things about the Hall of Fame. When we bring these ceremonies together, we have people from ITF, people from WTF. If there's any true merger, it's the Hall of Fame that I can see. I can't see any other organization that has people from all organizations a member of that one organization. And I'm pretty proud of the fact that we are able to do that. That we are able to bring people together from all different types of all different federations. Um, One of the most difficult parts of the Hall of Fame is basically getting recognizing people all over the world from different federations. And for that reason, we have national directors. You're a director of Canada, for instance. You introduced us to Peter Chung, and that's how he was inducted. We have national directors in about maybe now 30 different countries. We have continental directors, and that's really the only way you can we're bringing people together basically at the grassroots level. The leaders, it's very tough for the leaders to do it, but the people The regular people are the members of these organizations, or the pioneers, the referees, the competitors, the best of the best. We're bringing them all together under one roof. And one of the most things I'm proud of is in 2011, we gave a ceremony in Kukkiwon World Taekwondo headquarters in Korea, the actual, at that time, the mecca of Taekwondo. And that's the first time, in fact, that we had members of all different federations in the land where Taekwondo was born and in the main gymnasium. So I'm very proud. That was our benchmark event, and we've gained. And at that time, Korea had no idea what the Hall of Fame was. People would ask us, "What is Hall of Fame? What is Hall of Fame?" But after that event, they began to ask. They knew what it was, and it just seemed to grow. And now more and more people over the world want to become members, but it's very difficult. There's specific criteria that has to be met, and our national directors follow those strict guidelines in terms of recommending people for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so I hope one day all the Taekwondo will be united under one umbrella. Would that be possible?
I would hope so, but I hope so. I hope it would be possible. But I think right now we're pretty much the closest thing to it, bringing all of these people from different federations together, the leaders. In fact, we've inducted the federation heads of the ITF, the WTF, the GTF. That's never been done before. And it's amazing as years go by. I look back at what we've done, thanks to you and thanks to our other national directors in bringing the Taekwondo world together under one roof. It's a beautiful thing. And when we do have these ceremonies, no one asks, "Are you ITF? Are you WTF? Are you this?" No, we're just one family. We're Taekwondo.
Yeah, I hope that day comes true, hopefully. So if the ITF or GTF people, not really people, but Taekwondo practitioners, students, coaches, and they would like to compete in the Olympics, are they allowed to? Or how are they going to, what should they do?
The only way they can compete in the Olympics is if they go into a school that's affiliated with the WTF, as you said before. And you have to basically have my understanding is you have to have a Kukkiwon First Dan, I believe it is. There's a global license. But if you're not a member of a school that's a member of the WTF, if you're talking about the Olympics, it's impossible. So if your focus is Olympics, go to a school, and not just any school that teaches WTF. As you said before, look at the history of the instructor. Does this instructor have a background? Is this instructor solidly connected to the WTF? Maybe he has there are some schools that have champions. You can ask, do you have any champions in your school? What do you focus on more? Or do you have any? You can generally talk to the instructor and see whether or not that's the type of school that you want you want to participate in. If it's Olympics, again, it's got to be a WTF school, and you've got to really study the school. You've got to see what the school's a competitive school, and that's really the only way you can do it, actually.
Yeah, I know it becomes so political, and certain countries they allow ITF to join them, to join the Olympic umbrella, but not all countries. Certain countries they don't even allow the ITF Taekwondo practitioner to join the Olympic umbrella.
Well, I understand that. That's true. That is true. Then what you have to do is you have to. Well, there's really not much you can do unless you want to. Well, I do know some people who, even in WTF, their particular organization didn't allow certain competitors to compete as part of the national team, so they moved to another country. And they moved to another country and they studied under another, and they took they joined the national team of another country. How they were able to do that, I don't know. But Aaron Cook is a perfect example. He went from Great Britain to another country, and he ended to compete in world championships. because he couldn't compete on the national team where he was residing. I think he may even take a nationality in the other country.
Yeah, that's right. It becomes so political nowadays.
Very political.
I hope one day it will all Taekwondo will go under one umbrella. But luckily, we have Taekwondo Hall of Fame that welcomes all type of Taekwondo. In Taekwondo Hall of Fame, we are united under one umbrella, and we bring all Taekwondo experts and practitioner, coaches, and athletes together. And I think that is a fantastic idea, and that's the awesome idea, but also a role model for all the Taekwondo organization. So I just wonder, how did you start the Taekwondo Hall of Fame? Like, what inspired you to start the Taekwondo Hall of Fame?
Well, again, it was to preserve, honestly, my own history and the history of those people that I competed with that I thought were tremendous competitors. It started out as recognizing those people who were basically involved in the sport, but then we branched out into honoring the pioneers, honoring the officials, honoring the masters instructors that have taught for many years. In fact, our very first ceremony in 2007 in New York area, we had pioneers such as Riki Ha. Jun Ri was our honorary as our chairman. We had C.K. Choi, Grandmaster Young Il Kong. These are pioneers of Taekwondo. Kim Bak-man, and then we had the national champions, world champions from various different countries. But as it started out as honoring first players, and then it grew, and the categories grew as we realized we had to recognize people for their achievements as officials as well. But it's like I said, it's a beautiful thing, and each event I meet different people. People they tell me what a great experience they have attending these events and meeting people they've never learned, a sharing of knowledge, a sharing of experience, together. It's become a family for the most part, and I really enjoy it, and I see it growing. In fact, we're going to probably be putting out a book next year with all of the champions, all of the honorees' names, to further expand the knowledge of the Taekwondo Hall of Fame. The book is definitely necessary, but hopefully you'll make the next ceremony wherever we have it. Yeah, it's an honor to have you there. You've come to New York, and it's a beautiful experience to have you there. It was an honor for us to have you. Hopefully you'll make the next one as well. In fact,
Thank you. We should have a live event not only to honor all the pioneers and experts and champions. I think we should have a live event where we can share our knowledge and experience and scientific findings, so that we can help people, who are struggling, right? Things like that. So I thought maybe in the future we can have like a conference, scientific conference, something like that.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be all about Taekwondo. People who have specific professions like a diet, like nutrition, finance. We can have different seminars on these different topics, not just Taekwondo. I think it's a very good idea. I mean, we should really look into that.
We should. We should organize an event where we meet in one place and we share our knowledge and experience, and we can broadcast to all over the world. But at the same time, we make friends and we catch up and we socialize and we improve and we unite.
It amazes me now. When I follow Facebook, I see people who are communicating with each other on Facebook that didn't know each other before, and a lot of times they're not only talking about Taekwondo; they're talking about other things as well. It's just a beautiful experience. It's people have grown through these experiences and learned through these experiences and learn about different cultures. It's a beautiful thing.
It is very beautiful. So you created the Taekwondo Hall of Fame. What is your most challenging part throughout the process, even now?
Sure. Well, as you know, everybody wants to be recognized, and that's really tough. And some people will will say, how come this person was recognized and how come I wasn't recognized? But we try to be as fair as we possibly can. And the technical advisors and national directors and regional directors are instructed to when they select people, the people have to be the best at whatever it is that they do. And you have to put aside, even if it's a person that you don't really like, if that person has the qualifications and should be recognized, you have to recognize that person. You have to put aside your personal. And I found that over the years that these directors that we have been fair. So the biggest challenge is because there are so many people that have done so much throughout the world. Finding those people that no one has ever heard of that have really contributed. Those are the people we want to shine the light on. So putting aside the egos, the most challenging part is everybody wants to be recognized, but the room is only so big, and there are so many people that have done so many great things, but there is a limit to how many people we can have at these ceremonies. But that's why we continue to have them every 2 years, to give other people an opportunity to be recognized.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea, and also inspire people, motivate people, and also reward people who have worked hard behind the door, especially. And there are many masters who are really quiet, but they actually contributed a lot. They don't talk about it, but they actually give and give and give without asking back. So I think it's a good opportunity for the Taekwondo Hall of Fame to recognize these people. To identify them is actually not easy, because they do not like to quote unquote talk about it, right? They don't like to brag about it, or they don't want to spread the news, but they actually help people behind the door. They actually even spend money without asking the money back, and help and give their time, money, and effort to nurture an athlete from a regular athlete to Olympic champion. Because in order to train an athlete from an ordinary or regular athlete to become an Olympic champion, that takes a lot of, that takes a lot of effort and time and money, especially not only from the parent, but also from the coaches. Because I believe good coaches, they are like good parents, and they help the athlete, they help nurture the athlete to become a true champions.
And that's a lot of people have said that I'm doing a great job. Gerry Robbins, what you've done is fantastic. But you know what? What you're talking about is a very, very difficult thing to do, in terms of finding those people who have really dedicated their lives, who've received no kind of reward for it, and bringing them to the light of the public, to tell their story, to recognize them. And the only way this can be done is through the national directors. And I consider myself as basically just a leader, but it's up to you. It's up to all these national directors all over the world. These are the people that make the Taekwondo Hall of Fame. It's not me. I'm the figurehead of it, of course, but it's the hard work that you directors do worldwide that make this the success that it has. And I thank you for that.
Oh yeah, all teamwork. Yeah, Taekwondo is all about teamwork.
I mean, you recommended Grandmaster Su-Young Chung as well, I believe, from Canada as well. We haven't had a chance to honor him.
Yeah,
he might have had some sort of problem in terms of attending, but we're going to reach out for him again. But yeah, I can't thank you enough, and I can't thank the national directors and the people that are involved in doing the research and bringing these people to light. It's a wonderful thing that you're doing, and I know it's not easy.
Yeah, no. I also would like to propose athlete or later on when the next Taekwondo Hall of Fame event is up. So yeah, so it's good. It is an honor job, and I would like to find coaches and athletes who actually contributed a lot, but they don't talk about it. There's so many, but they just, in Taekwondo, if they were taught being humble, I mean, that's the champion of the champion. The top one, they were taught to be humble, right? And they were taught about humility. So they actually do a lot, but they don't talk about it. So it's actually not easy to find those people, but I hope that we all, do our part and find those people and recognize them.
Well, we recognize those people, but the same token, as you know, we're preserving the history of Taekwondo. If people looking at Taekwondo today, they have no idea what happened in the past. That's the importance of the Taekwondo Hall of Fame. They can see in the post that we do who did what, who was where, who developed the art, who taught here, who was the first instructor there. This is a way of not only just honoring people, but actually preserving Taekwondo.
Yep, that's good. It is not easy, but we just pray for wisdom to find those people and get connected with the association and being part of the organization. Then hopefully we'll find more. How has the Taekwondo Hall of Fame impacted on Taekwondo as a whole or in general?
Well, what it's done again in bringing people together, it's enabled people from different various, not just federations, but walks of life, from races, from creeds, from religions, to get together, to get to know each other, to see the human part of each other, to see that we're all the same. We all want the same thing. We all want the same goals. We all are, we want to be happy. We all want to learn. And when I see the people shaking hands from different countries, some of the people, they don't even speak the same language, but they do communicate, and it's a beautiful thing.
So united under one umbrella, that's our dream. I'm sure that's the vision of Taekwondo Hall of Fame.
That is the vision. That is definitely the vision. And, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. 1975, after I came back from the World Taekwondo Championships in 1977, I actually tried to bring a group of people from around the world to Korea to train for the first time. But as you know, we didn't have cell phone then. We didn't have internet at the time. So it was very difficult. But that was actually the very first attempt to bring a group of people from around the world to train in the birthplace of Taekwondo. So I guess the beginnings of the Hall of Fame might have even begun back then, but in 2011 we finally did it when we brought people together in the Kukkiwon. That was a wonderful experience.
Maybe Taekwondo Hall of Fame should organize another one in the near future after this COVID, the lockdown.
Yeah, that's a fantastic idea. And from what I understand, there's going to be vaccines that have come out that are going to probably help this situation a lot in the future. I think we'll be back to where we were in time. But on that note, I'd have to just urge that people follow the guidelines. Wear masks. It's not a political issue. Wear your mask, social distance, and we'll get through this. We'll get through this. We'll be back to where we were. I have faith that we'll be back to square one again. But it's very important to follow these guidelines.
It's good to know. Yeah, we hope that that event comes true. I definitely will join you guys. I mean, all of the grandmasters, and we all get the chance to meet and train in Kukkiwon.
Yeah. Well, and I like your idea. It could be training, it could be learning, it could be different seminars on different types of subjects. It's a very good idea. Sharing information, and we're going to look into that. We're going to talk more about that as time goes on, I hope.
Yeah, we can start small. We don't have to have like a big grand event. Start something small, and then you have it as like the first whatever event, right? And then next year it's gonna have maybe in 2 years' time it's gonna be like the second conference, and then the third conference, and then eventually the conference will grow bigger and bigger in the future. Who knows?
Maybe we can call it the Hall of Fame Summit. Hall of Fame Summit.
Exactly. Yeah, you can call it Taekwondo Hall of Fame Summit. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to you helping with this. Yeah, it's a very good idea.
Think about it. Yeah. So, Grandmaster Robin, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, your life experience, your expertise, and your generosity. And I really thank you for all of that. And on behalf of all the Taekwondo practitioners in the world, I hope so, we all like to say thank you so much for founding this Taekwondo Hall of Fame, and thank you so much for uniting all type of Taekwondo under one umbrella, and thank you so much for recognizing all the silent heroes in Taekwondo.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you so much, and for the audience, and I would like to thank you for watching, and thank you for listening to our talk. I hope you learned something out of today's, or out of this video, or out of this discussion. And remember, always do our part, make the world a better place to all of us to live in. Okay, thank you, and have a nice day, and
It's been my pleasure.
have a nice
Thank you.
week ahead. And
Thank you
remember,
very much.
well, my slogan is have confidence within you, because you're special. All of us are special.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.
Yeah. Goodbye. Bye. Thank you.
Bye, Grandmaster Robbins.
Bye.